Good night, viewers, and welcome to this another program of Advancing the Cause. This program comes to you every Wednesday night from 16:30 or rather 18:30 hours to 20 hours. The official host of this program is the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AA, MP, and General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union. Miss McDonald is unavoidably absent from this session tonight, and therefore I tender an excuse for her absence from this program for tonight. My name is Dennis Jaikran, and I'm going to be hosting this program for tonight. We continue the topic as we would have started some weeks ago, and that is the topic, The Truth Be Told, Part 5. The Truth Be Told, Part 5. And the order of the program tonight is we are going to deal with the cash grant school grants. We are going to deal with the old age pension books, the distribution process. We are going to deal with the failure of enforcement agencies to take legal and constitutional action. Then we are going to look at, and these agencies we are going to look at, so let us give them notice up front that we would be calling the names of these agencies that are failing in their duties as paid servants of this country. And these agencies are the Guyana Revenue Authority, the National Insurance Scheme, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Guyana Power and Light, and the Ministry of Labor. And then the next area we are going to deal with, we are going to touch a bit on the church issue or situation in Region 1, Maruka, so to speak. Then we are going to touch on a number of matters related to the Ministry of Education. These matters are going to be Sir Porter College of Education, mathematical intervention by the Ministry of Education, inspectorate report, schools still not in readiness for reopening in a very formal way, unit of allied arts, the RIA, which is the remote area incentive, matters concerning the Teaching Service Commission, and we are going to deal with a number of general issues. Viewers, you might recognize that time and again that the information we bring to this program, we bring these pieces of information because we are in steady contact with our major stakeholders. And our major stakeholders are not only persons living in this country. People from overseas communicate with us on a daily basis. They give us the kinds of information on a daily basis. And therefore, we are of the opinion that having received these pieces of information, it makes it our duty to bring this information to you. In very many cases, these are all confirmed reports and information, but because we do not want to be taken, so to speak, to court, we use the alleged terms and the suggested terms. Therefore, tonight, as we proceed this program, we want to express our gratitude and our thanks to all those who persons, agencies, and organizations that are sending in the kinds of information that we need to bring to your attention. And so we commence this program by dealing with this cash school grants, two issues. Cash grants on one hand, school grants on the other hand. So let us start with this issue of the cash grants. There is still, based on the information we receive, that cash grants are still being paid. It is alleged that cash grants are still being paid. And we are told, and we very well believe that the distribution process of this cash grant is very discriminatory and very unfair. And more so, it is more unscrupulous in very many cases. And so what we mean by that on this program is that there are selected persons that so benefit from these cash grants, the payout of these cash grants. It is alleged, we want to bring it to your attention. It is alleged that in some cases, that an entire family or entire families, so to speak, are receiving these cash grants, meaning grandmother, grandfather, children living in a home, grandchildren living in a home, persons not related to the home but living there are receiving. And on the other hand, persons who are eligible, so to speak, and we say eligible because for those who are responsible for distribution, they have their own criteria of eligibility for the distribution. But based on what this program understands, that there are persons that are more vulnerable financially than those who are receiving. And so we thought it best that we should be able to say in a very special way how this is being done, the discriminatory aspect of it, the very unfair and very unscrupulous way, and the persons who benefit from these cash grants. And may I remind us at this very beginning that every cent that is being paid by this government, it is not the government of Guyana money. It is not the PPP's money. It is money belonging to the state. And it is money belonging to all Guyanese. And therefore, if there is any benefit from whatever sum is there from the treasury or from any source of income, it has to be distributed in a very fair manner to persons that are eligible to be able to receive. And I want to talk quickly about school grants. School grants, as far as we would have been told by reliable sources, very informed persons, it is alleged that persons who receive school grants, it is alleged, let me repeat that school grants are paid to, allegedly, some head teachers, some parents, and school grants, by new school grants is for the children. The children receive. Persons who would not have been enrolled at the school, they receive, allegedly. Persons who are not of school age, not even play school age, are also recipients of such school grants. If what would have been told to us allegedly is true and correct, it means then that has to be termed also very unfair, discriminatory, and very unscrupulous in the process of distribution. And therefore, at this stage, I want to strongly believe that we should cause or want to cause us to call on the Auditor General, the Finance Secretary, the Accountant General of this country, the Minister of Education as it relates to school grants, the Minister of Social Services as it relates to cash grants, to so inform, because this program, we have citizens of this country that are hosting this program, and we are taxpayers, and it is our duty to ask questions, and we are asking for answers too. And if possible, if the Minister of Education can kindly explain or cause to be explained, or to find out, or to investigate what would have been alleged. And if the Minister of Social Services can be able to lay in the public domain a list of all the persons who would have received cash grants as per region, as per NDCs, Neighborhood Democratic Councils, the township, their name, their address, and their ID number. Because it is state money, it is no secret unless it is state secret. And that would suffice, and to say to Guyanese, very well informed, who are the persons who would have received cash grants. So we know if there is any discrimination, any unfairness, any unscrupulous behavior, then that would come on board. So we call out those persons that are part and parcel of this whole situation, and to be able to grant us that kind of information. It is also alleged that persons who live overseas would have sent authorization for person or persons to collect or uplift cash grants. If that would have been the case as alleged, and if those persons are not resident in Guyana, and if the criteria, if they have any, do not provide for such payment, then there is again need for Guyanese to be told in no uncertain terms what are the criteria and conditions for payment of this cash grant. And then I turn now to the old age pension. This program would have advised time and again that as it relates to old age pension, payment of old age pension, that persons residing abroad and are not living in Guyana, because I am not repeating myself, I am explaining, are not resident in Guyana for any period of more than 3 days in 1 year or week. It is alleged that those persons came to this country, maybe give their address or an address of some other person, uplifted their old age pension book, and they are overseas and receiving pension from taxpayers and the state of Guyana. It is unfair, it is unscrupulous, it is discriminatory. And because of that, on this program, we kept saying about this old age pension books. And as reported in the media sometime last week or the week before, that there are challenges and difficulties with the encashment of these vouchers for old age pension. And it is alleged that there are some challenges as it relates to the legality of the vouchers that were submitted. And we were further told in the media that there is an investigation on in this matter by the police. If that is so, then it would be good enough, having put it in the public domain, that when that investigation would have concluded that such an investigation be put, the results, the report, the findings be put in the public domain so that all Guyanese persons residing out of Guyana, persons who are looking at this program, and all interested persons would have information as it relates to the allegation of the challenges of encashing those old age pension. This is a serious situation. And why it is serious and why these things are happening, it is because there are not checks and balances to ensure that these things happen in the right way. Who is to be blamed? Are the persons who are responsible for the distribution? Are the persons who are responsible for ensuring that the names that are to be paid, or the persons by name who are to be paid old age pension, that there is a verified process? There are a number of questions to be asked. Are people below 65 years in this country and overseas, are they receiving old age pension? These are questions to be answered, because this is a very serious situation that persons are now posing a challenge to the post office or wherever they go to change their old age pension vouchers. And this very situation is now going to cause serious scrutiny on the eligible persons. All are going to be watched. All are going to be treated as suspects because of a few doing their dirty work and bringing shame and disgrace to those old age pensioners that serve this country diligently, faithfully, and honestly, sincerely, And because of some people wanting to do underhand work, they are now placed on the line of dignity and integrity. So at this stage, very serious situation as it is time for us to be able to have the intervention of the Minister of Social Services, the Auditor General, the Finance Secretary, and the Accountant General. Very many times we call on an audit, but we do not go back to the source. The audit is the end product of it because it would have already been done. But the process is the Ministry of Finance. And who are the Ministry of Finance? Not by person, but by office. The Finance Secretary and the Accountant General. Again, are there checks and balances as it relates to what is happening there and the Ministry of Social Service? Is there any level of conciliation at the end of every month, at the end of every quarter, at the end of every 6 months, end of every year? Had that been done, then this level, or what is happening now allegedly, might not have happened. So I call on the Minister of Social Services, I call on the Auditor General, I call on the Accountant General, and I call on the Finance Secretary to take note and to put checks and balances. It is not a recommendation, it's something I'm saying. So that the people who are living overseas would not proceed for 2 or 3 days in this country, have their old age pension books organized. And Minister, you have to know those who are working in your ministry. Give them that book, and then they are out and they break the rules of being in the country for so many months. And there's need for that level of honesty and investigation to be placed. The third point I want to deal with is this situation of the establishment of an unauthorized and illegal workshop in a residential area. I stress, an unauthorized and illegal workshop in a residential area. Every program for the past 6 to 8 programs, this would have been one of the subject areas that would have been focused on. And therefore, these agencies that are failing in their constitutional and legal duties are the Guyana Revenue Authority, the National Insurance Scheme, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Guyana Power and Light, and the Ministry of Labor. Who are they failing? In the first instance, there should not have been the establishment of any unauthorized or illegal mechanical workshop or any workshop of the sort in any residential area. And these things happen. And once these things happen and it is being encouraged, then it becomes a dark day for those around who have to face the consequences. And so in this case, I'm going to come back to those 5 agencies that the illegal and unauthorized establishment of this workshop is causing noise pollution, dust pollution, and chemical pollution. And if since May of this year, letters would have been sent to these agencies that are supposed to be working in the interest of the people of this country, the taxpayers of this country, and for those same agencies whose employees are receiving every month state money, taxpayers' money, and are failing in their duty, and there's no response to things, then we are in a very bad state in this country. We are in a very bad state. And these are only 5 agencies because of this unauthorized and illegal workshop. And so what is happening? Once you are in public office, it is not your personal property, that office, physically and in terms of its functionality. You are paid to perform such duties. You are not a voluntary worker. Or unless you are a 10-day, what you call it, 10-day a month worker, or substitute worker, or whatever you call it. But these agencies have failed tremendously in the execution of their duty. Let me don't say anything about the police. They don't know anything about any time. It is not their duty anytime. They are out of order all the time. They know when to sit on the front border and they know when to sit on the back border. They are nothing, no set of people to depend on anything. But I'm going to deal with them later on as it relates to tint and harassment of persons in different communities in Region 2. I'm going to deal with them. And I'm going to make the public be aware of some of them, not all. We have some very, very good policemen, but there are some rogue elements in the Guyana police force that are causing havoc and mayhem in situations. But I'm going to come to that because they are not in this fight. They are going to be separate and apart from what I'm going to say. And so noise, dust, and chemical pollution, these are very serious situations. Very serious situations. And so let me deal with them one by one very quickly. Let me start with the Guyana Revenue Authority. If this is an establishment, and the Guyana Revenue Authority, which is an agency that is supposed to bring money into this country by taxes and any form of revenue stream, and then they are not doing that, then what is their function? Are they opening their eyes and looking at illegalities, or are they covering up as normal in the Guyana Revenue Authority? Or are they seeking to only collect finances from one set of persons, agencies, and organizations? So I put that to rest. The second one is the National Insurance Scheme. And the National Insurance Scheme in this country is a blessing to every Guyanese. And that agency, I want to believe, would have been established in 1969 under the astute and dynamic leadership of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. And when that scheme was established, for those who would have opposed it, would have benefited from it tremendously. The funding, the finance, the resources of the National Insurance Scheme would have been the milking cow, so to speak, of some persons and agencies. And so it becomes cause to worry. What is happening, the functionality of the National Insurance Scheme? Are they doing what they are supposed to do based on the National Insurance Scheme Act? Are they allowing themselves to generate funds through activities of employment? Or are they sitting there and allowing, looking, staring in their eyes, illegal employment? I leave that one day. I come now to the Environmental Protection. Hear the name of this thing, Environmental Protection Agency. They came into being by an act. And that particular act provided for them to be able, in all ways and in all forms, to be able to protect workplaces, persons, agencies, and workplaces would be broad, industrial, and what have you. Educational institution, more particularly the technical institutes, and what have you, what have you. And so in this case, the Environmental Protection Agency would have failed in even responding by acknowledgement letters that would have sent to them. And I would want to believe that in the normal course of duty, that any public servant, good as they may be, once they would have received a piece of correspondence, it becomes their duty to acknowledge and to respond. That is not the case in the public service, in most cases, may I see. And because of that, you do not treat individuals, agencies, and organizations at your whims and fancies. And I'm talking to the Environmental Protection Agency, because you would have been a failed agency and you would have been responsible for many things that are happening in this country, because you are not adhering to the Environmental Protection Agency Act. That this is serious, where you have noise nuisance, noise pollution, dust pollution, and chemical pollution. Some of these agencies are not proactive. They are reactive. And when you become reactive, by then, persons are wiped off in their lives because of the failure of agencies to act. And so they did not have the common courtesy, so to speak, to respond to the Guyana Revenue Authority, neither the Ministry of Labor, that I'm going to speak about them now. The Ministry of Labor, where these illegal and unauthorized workshops are concerned, that there is what is known Act number 32 of 1997, Occupational Safety and Health Act 1997, assented by Samuel A. Hines, President, on the 9th of December 1997. Very important piece of legislation, Occupational Safety and Health Act 1997. And so the Ministry of Labor have it been written to since May of this year, would have failed to make any sort of visit to determine the many things that are supposed to be there in any authorized and legal workshop, not in a residential area, but areas were established, designated as industrial sites. And there is where these workshops ought to be. And the Ministry of Labor would have failed in its duty by not visiting, ensuring that they are safety devices, they are safety gears, that the signages are there, the necessary pieces of equipment and instrument are there. But how do we make that assessment when such a workshop, a mechanical workshop, is established in a residential area and there is noise, dust, and chemical pollution? Far from a wash-based story. And then the Guyana Power and Light. It might be suggested that the Guyana Power and Light is turning a blind eye on this situation because it is alleged that this same unauthorized, it is alleged, unauthorized and illegal workshop as established in a residential area, is paying allegedly for domestic consumption, having domestic connection, but are using heavy duty pieces of equipment. And there is where the dust, the noise, and the chemical pollution emanates more than every other thing. And so there's a blind eye on this situation. And I thought it best that based on popular demand, that I should continue to bring it to your attention. I now turn to this situation of the church service in Region 1. I want to strongly believe, because I saw the video, Mabaruma, if what would have been said, seen, and heard, it is time for us to be able to turn a new page in our life. If there is that level of disrespect by the police, and maybe they were working on instructions, and they might not be the rogue elements in the Guyana police force, would have gone to a church, invited persons to the station, having them stop their service, putting them on bail, $20,000, I want to believe, for playing loud music, as alleged. I don't see what keyboard can make loud music. The same people who use that, they can come and check the workshop. What loud music you have from 7 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock in the night, every day of the week, including Sundays, Saturdays, and holidays. No rest, so to speak, for the wicked. That is what is happening. And there's rest for the wicked because they are not coming and see what is happening. And so this program at this stage, we take this opportunity to condemn the very act that took place in Region 1 at this church. It is a very wicked and unscrupulous situation. It is sad that the church would have been forced in that corner. But you know, in this country, things less than this here, this is a very big issue. That you see all the religious leaders from the Muslim community, the Hindu community, and the Christian community, and all the rights organizations, and all these people would come out and make statements and demands. But it is difficult to believe how many persons, religious bodies, and rights agencies and organizations would have condemned this act, very unscrupulous, insane, unkind act that was bestowed upon the church, the members of that church. But this program, we wanted it to be known and to be recorded, and we want the people of that church to know that we would have condemned that act that would have bestowed upon them on that day. This should not happen in this country. And again, we refer to Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, who would have brought religious freedom, so to speak, to every major religion in this country, Hindus, Christian, and Muslim, and to create that respect for each other. And this very situation is going to be able to cause a disrespect. And we condemn this very act. It is a shameful act, and there should be. Where is, we do not want to single out on this program, but where are these organizations and agencies and commissions that would have been established under the Constitution? What statements are they making? What statements are the churches, the Christian churches, the Muslims are making, the Hindus are making? So we condemn it and we want to make it move. And we now turn to some matters of the Ministry of Education, issues or matters, whatever it might be. And the first one we want to direct our attention to is the Cyril Potter College of Education, the main center at Turkine, and all the other centers across this country. Because we said to you, we are receiving this program, receiving information on a daily basis. And it is only right for us to be able to tell the public what are the things told to us. And so it would have been brought to our attention, not only by members of the public, but by students who are at CPC, both in service and pre-service, nursery, primary, secondary, that the quality of lecturers that are recruited at this stage and to deliver to them that CPC curriculum in all the courses, that it is posing a problem, a difficulty, a challenge to all the students, or to the students at CPC, both at the main branch at Turkine and all the satellite branches across this country. And that is cause of concern. And since it is cause of concern, we are of the opinion that we should be able to bring it. The second thing that was reported, that the process of recruitment of persons to head these centers, these outlying centers, is questionable. In some cases, their status at school would have been, when they were pitchfork into that position, their status at school would have been an AM, either assistant mistress or assistant master, not even a TQM. Sorry, SAM, not even an SAM, rather SM or PhD or DHM or head teacher. And so, because they do not have that administrative ability, they are causing serious problems in the management of these branches. And lecturers as well as students are complaining bitterly. Minister of Education, if you are listening, or the persons who you put to listen to this program, you need to take note, and in the best interest of teachers of this country, you need to do what is right. Many of the part-time lecturers would have complained and submitted their information as it relates to their payslip that NIS is being deducted from their salary. It is hard to conclude that the persons who are responsible do not have an idea. It is hard to conclude that when and how to pay NIS. And here is where I am kindly asking those who agreed with to pay their teachers 10% and to sign that document. It is time for that section of the Guyana Teachers Union to be able to look into this matter of part-time lecturers at CPC whose salaries are subject to NIS deduction. And so those are the things I want to talk about our CPC. Mathematics intervention by the Ministry of Education. This is the other area under Ministry of Education. Mathematics intervention for grades 10 and 11 students. The last time I spoke on this program, I made mention of some of the things, how they can improve. Whether they took the recommendations or not, I am sending that strong message everywhere I speak to teachers. And don't believe we don't speak to teachers. We speak to teachers in great numbers every single day, in different WhatsApp group and what have you. We speak with them, and we speak with them because we want them to be able to benefit from our experiences. And so this whole question about that there is allegedly side tracking of qualified mathematics teachers in our secondary school and bringing in persons, maybe they are qualified in mathematics, but they are out of the system. And nothing is wrong with those persons who are out of the system. But when you are sidelining those who are in the system and are paying big boxes to those that are out of the system, these teachers in the system, the mathematics teachers, are asking questions. Somebody should be able to answer that question. The other question that somebody should be able to answer would be, what sums of money would have been or would be spent rather at the end of this period of intervention. Because mind you, we are quite aware that this is a new intervention and that this intervention did not attract at the time of the appropriation in this year for this year budget in higher education did not attract any sum of money. So maybe this is supplemental for another $1 billion for Ministry of Education. We don't know, for textbooks, printing of materials, preparation of special curriculum, and what have you. So these are questions that we need to take cognizance of. Inspectorate report. I have a number of inspectorate reports here. 20 something inspectorate reports, schools rather, that would have been inspected during this year, for this year alone. And a number of things as it relates to the inspectorate report. Even persons who are employed in the Ministry of Education, REDOs, DOs, head teachers, teachers in the classroom, they are complaining bitterly of the variation, and I would have recognized that from these reports. In these observation and assessment. And so there's no standardization as it relates to the instrument as per that is used, so to speak, in these schools. So if you go through these reports, the administrative aspect of it, you see variation. So if you go to school A, you see something different from school B. And so that situation is causing serious concern. And who has to help with that standardization? The Chief Education Officer. And once you know that gentleman is handling that part, definitely it is a failure. But when this would have happened, I'm making some preliminary remarks on inspectorate report because 20 of them I'm going to go through. Maybe by the next program, I will have another 20 based on how many visits would have been done. And I'm going to make the comparison. And one can only conclude that based on what is happening there, in some schools, we can only suggest or allege that there is discrimination, victimization, and witch hunting. We can only allege that based on what these reports are saying. But as I said, I'm just giving a preliminary so that when I go through at the next time or the next program, I'm going to make mention of all these things that I'm talking about. So I now move to the unit of Allied Arts. The unit of Allied Arts, there is a piece of correspondence, if you want to call it correspondence, a 5-pager. It's from the head of Allied Arts to regional education officers and principal education officer. Again, this is very erroneous. The principal education officer, Georgetown, through the deputy chief education officer. Implementation, hear this word, implementation of inter-house, inter-school and National Secondary Schools Track and Field Championships. Well, I don't know, right? And if you go down, the Ministry of Education has decided to effect changes to the execution and implementation of the National Schools Championship from the 2024-2025 academic year. These changes are being implemented in keeping with recommendations submitted to the Ministry of Education and the Guyana Teachers Union by key stakeholders, including the Guyana Olympics Association, Athletics Association of Guyana, and the Unit of Allied Arts. Further, the Ministry of Education also considered the following. And there are a number of things there. But there is some serious problem in the Ministry of Education as it relates to the construction of pieces of correspondence. And let me say up front that there is a difference in construction of a memo or a memorandum and a letter. And this here, which is supposed to be a memo, concluded as a letter. It is poorly worded and poorly constructed, this piece of correspondence here. And as I said, the writer cannot differentiate between a memo and a letter. And so this here would have started as a memo and ended as a letter. The normal sick of the Ministry of Education. The normal sick of the Ministry of Education. And what is more alarming is that this person who did not have the common courtesy of correcting him or herself would have had this glorious opportunity to sign and to put beside the name of this person BSc, MBA, Class 1 honors. I am bringing this to the attention of the public because this here in itself would have serious effect in the school system. The management of the national championships. And this here is one of the first processes that would commence to really and truly bring down the standard of the National Athletics Championship. So that is correspondence number one that would have been put to us here, and we need to look at it. Now, there is what is referred to as the RAI, the Remote Area Incentive. And the first thing I wish to recommend is a policy document that would speak to the Remote Area Incentive Scheme. But I make mention of this because there is a situation. And because of this situation, I want to call out in front so that they can know what is happening, the Guyana Teachers Union. There is a certain gentleman once upon a time who sat in a certain position, in a certain region. And it is alleged that this gentleman was saved because he embezzled while he was whatever position, sums of money that would have met for Ariel. This same gentleman now holds another position. And this is the situation I'm coming to. I give you that little background. That he would have evicted a teacher from the government quarters in that particular region. Now this teacher has to pay $30,000 per month for rent. She's a single mother with a child. And so this here, and there are many other evictions of teachers from houses. And once you go into particular communities, teachers are entitled to these houses. There's not a clear distinction under the public service rules and regulations. And there's no section in the public service rules and regulations. I'm not talking about this teacher. This teacher is entitled to a house based on the area in which she would have been evicted and now has to pay $30,000. But in the public service rules and regulation, as it relates to that section of housing, it does not clarify or clearly states who are the persons in terms of offices that are eligible for accommodation. But there's a statement which says that if you occupy furnished house, you pay 12% of your salary as rental. If you occupy government house, you pay 10% of your salary for unfurnished house, plus the utility bill. In some cases, some people don't pay any utility. Right now, in some regions, I would have going to say something else. In some regions, because there is no eligibility criteria for public officers. But I make mention in passing, but we come back to that there. So since this teacher has to pay now, a single mother with one child, evicted from a home by this same person who held, excuse me, a certain position lower down the ladder in terms of position, would have embezzled sums of money from the remote area incentive scheme. And he was saved from going elsewhere because of that by some gentleman somewhere. And now this same gentleman would have turned back, having now holding a position in authority, would have evicted this teacher. The Guyana Teachers Union, I'm calling you out on this matter. And if you need to have further information, then that information would be given to you as directed by me to maybe a source, or maybe a source would direct me. So I think I should have made mention of the area of the remote area incident. Teacher Service Commission matters. The Teaching Service Commission would have been established under an act. And it is alleged that there are some members of the Teaching Service Commission. Some may have served before and are now serving again. Had the tendency then, it is alleged, and still has the tendency now, to be able to promise people work, having people take their application as alleged to his or her home, and then he or she would take it to the Department of Education and then ask the REDO to sign on, and he or she would take it to the teacher, as alleged, the Teacher Service Commission. That needs to be investigated, whether it is a he or she, or whether what is said as alleged is true. If it is, then there is serious need for investigation into the Teaching Service Commission. But that is just a side about the Teaching Service Commission, because I said the Teaching Service Commission would have been established under the Act. And that Act provided for them to do certain things. And education officers, regional education officers, and education officers would have made the allegation or put the allegation to us that the Teaching Service Commission is boldly writing directly to education officers who would have put teachers and head teachers before the commission, writing directly to them to appear for hearings at the Teaching Service Commission. This is irregular. This channel of communication is broken by far. And there is this channel that the education officers, they come under a specific branch, of which that branch is headed by the chief education officer. And then you have the other officers, the DCOs, ACOs, and what have you, then regional education officers, principal education officer, Georgetown. They know the structure. But the Teaching Service Commission cannot write directly to a district education officer to appear in before the commission for have a statement or a witness to or anything as it relates to disciplinary action or hearing against a teacher or a head teacher. And so I bring these things to the attention of the viewers because these are the things that are, let me use this word, mashing up the education system. There's a song, mashing up the world or something. Maybe from the education system, they would mash up this country and then mash up the world. So those who are managing TSC, I don't know who are the members. I don't even know who the chairman of the TSC. But if by chance they are doing that, I think they should relook at what the Teaching Service Commission Act would have provided for them to do. And the CEO, kindly provide yourself with the information, most importantly, the channel of communication to all the officers below you from whichever agencies or what have you. I had that difficulty when I was a REDO. I had that same difficulty when I was a regional executive officer because I know channel of communication. And when I saw certain things, it peeved me bitterly. Being a regional education officer and a regional exec, I objected very many times. And when I objected, persons were bitter with me, but I did not care about that bitterness to them. I was doing what was right and correct. So Teaching Service Commission, I thought it fit because it was brought to this program here. And placement exam. The Ministry of Education put into place something called the placement examinations. And how this examination is given. This examination is given to students in secondary schools when they are at grade 8. And that I think is managed by the Department of Education, the various departments of education. And for the 3 terms, the students rather, have to get an average of 75% to be considered to go to a secondary school of a higher grade, a secondary school with a higher grade. And because I want to explain what I want to explain, I'm going to call a region and I'm going to call the name of a school. Allegedly. So in region 2, allegedly, at a particular secondary school, allegedly, last year, this examination would have been administered, and very many persons that it would have been administered to students did not reach the required percentage to be recommended to go to a senior secondary school or a secondary school of a higher grade. But it happened because there was an intervention of a person or persons. This year, I want to minister to, or maybe she has persons listening to this. This year, that examination would have been administered at a certain secondary school. The children, the students who wrote the examination, they all were able to have 75% and more. Those students. So they are now eligible to go to another secondary school, graded higher. But they were denied. So what are you doing? You are killing, and you're talking about mathematics intervention, and you are killing these children right at this level. So, Minister of Education, kindly have persons investigate this situation. Because it is alleged, and I'm going to call it school and a region now because it is alleged that a certain student at the Abramsville Secondary School did not reach the requirement to go to that school while at the Cottonfield Secondary School. But because his father is a big businessman in this region, it is alleged, consideration was given to him. If that is not discrimination, then what is happening? Who is to be held accountable? It has to be the two head teachers from the schools, the two schools concerned, allegedly, Cottonfield Secondary and Abramsville Secondary. And the REDO has to be part of it. So all should be called upon to account. And the world is doing, all Guyanese are knowing who are listening to this program, the world is doing, and all the persons who are listening are now informed because it is alleged that the son of this businessman, the big businessman in this region, his son did not meet. It is alleged. But this is discrimination as it relates to class system in this country. And how long will we tolerate this kind of thing? So the poorer class of people, their children, are meant to suffer. And I think we should go down the line and somebody should investigate who are these students who would have been denied the opportunity. Some parents spoke to me, but I don't remember the names and where they live. And they are very perturbed and disturbed. And of these two schools, yesterday there was a big fighting with wood and all sorts of things in the school. Today there is a big fight. There would have been a big fighting with knife and scissors at the same school. Parents reach out to me and tell me all these things. And so when you do these things, what are you doing to our children? And you know, you are what the school is blaming the education department. The education department is blaming the school. So why write this examination at grade 8 to cause them to be pleased? You are denying children the right to their education. And so there is need for somebody to be able to make some inquiry into this here. I hear they say in education that investigation, you don't go to school and investigation. You go and inquire. As a professional word in education, you go and inquire. You do inquiries into school, not investigations. So, CEO, if you don't know that word because you were never an education officer, you were pitchforked straight from the school system into the CEO position. So you don't know about inquiry. So I'm telling you, that is the word. You do not investigate. I want to deal with some general concerns as we are about to conclude. And I'm going to deal with some recent contracts. It is alleged that a certain contractor received billions of dollars for emergency work in Region 3. It is alleged. It is alleged that works done, if it is done, cannot be found. And so that is number one as it relates to contract. It is alleged that a contractor and his son with different contracts are receiving billions of dollars in emergency work, most of which cannot be found. The third point is that a certain contractor is receiving billions in contract, and it is further alleged that this same contractor had a $750 million loan from GNCB, Guyana National Cooperative Bank. The loan would have never been paid, it is alleged. It is alleged that the accounting department of a certain agency has rearranged individuals of one religious faith to hold all the senior positions for approving and issuing payments. 5, it is alleged that a certain supplier and contractor, he's a supplier and contractor, has multiple companies with billions of dollars of contracts. Bids are doubled than from other bidders, meaning that this same contractor supplier, he would double his bids, but yet he would receive the bids. There's another contractor with billions in contract. It is alleged. The above, which is 6, which would refer to 6 contracts or supplies, they get 4/5 of the budget of a certain agency. 4/5 of the budget of a certain agency, it is alleged. It is alleged that there is a certain supplier of equipment and materials, and this supplier would have been sourcing geotextile 4 times more than competitors with billions of contracts. So this contractor is supplying geotextile materials 4 times more than other suppliers. And this contractor is receiving billions of dollars in contract. it is alleged that there is another contractor that does sloppy work and that a particular pump that was installed and not functioning, they had to allow engineers or technicians coming from somewhere costing millions of dollars to determine the fault or the default of this pump as installed, causing billions of dollars. Guy American. Did I say Guy America just now? Well, what is written here? I'm not seeing it properly here. And so the question is asked that there's a certain dealership for heavy equipment being supplied to government agencies. Is this person, the question is this person fronting for a high level government official? These are questions that should be answered and should be addressed. And so, as in closing, viewers, I want to make mention of something that would have been in the request, so to speak, and that it has to do with the Department of Health in Region 2, where it is alleged that a senior health official in the Department of Health is involved in the construction of a big industrial site somewhere between Golden Fleece and Colin. And it is further alleged that this same senior health official would have contracted a minibus from Perseverance, paying his private minibus operator, owner and operator, $500,000 a month for renter. Whereas the Department of Health in Region 2 has adequate transportation facilities to do any of all its work, so to speak. It is further alleged that there are serious difficulties and problems with the medical supplies bond, the drugs bond, allegedly, and that the distribution system to the various health facilities in the region are not what it's supposed to, as alleged. And therefore, it is only fitting for us to call on the Accountant General, the Finance Secretary, the Auditor General, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health, to so cause an investigation into this matter, as alleged. And therefore, viewers, for tonight, I want to again express gratitude and thanks for your submission of information to us. And because we are constrained by time on this program, we cannot, on any of these programs, based on what you would have submitted, be able to give to you, the viewers. But we are going to give you all this information over a period of time. We want to thank you very much and to wish you a good night. Thank you and may God bless you. Until next week, Same time, this program from 1830 hours to 20 hours, advancing the cause, would be here next week. Thank you. May God bless you.